You're listening to East of the Rockies, the Michigan Student Softball Podcast on WCBN Sports.
Well, Mr. Burns had done it, the power plant had won it, with Roger Clemens clucking all the while. Mike Scioscia's tragic illness made us smile, while Wade Boggs lay unconscious on the barroom tile. We're talking softball, from Maine to San Diego, talking softball. Mattingly and Canseco, Ken Griffey's grotesquely swollen jaw, Steve Sachs and his running with the law. We're talking Homer, Ozzie and the Straw.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to East of the Rockies, WCBN Sports' Michigan Softball Podcast. Are we on episode 5 or 6 now? Episode 5, folks, and you heard it here first. Anyway, I'm Morris Fabry. I'm hosting today. On the other side of the glass, I have with me Alex Drain. Alex, say hi and please explain why you're late.
I was getting dinner. It was one of those things where I had class until 7. Class got out at 6:50. There was no one in the Panera. I was like, oh, great, we're going to get some dinner and get here nice and early. And it took them 20 minutes to make my food, even though there was no one else there.
What'd you order?
Well, I just found out they screwed up half my order, so.
Oh, jeez. I used to work at that Panera, full disclosure, folks, and I didn't think we were that slow, but things have gone downhill since I left. Also with us today, on the phone, we have Kevin Klein. Kev, what time did you call in?
I was bright and early today. It was 5:55 Central Time, a little bit of a time difference, but it was nice catching up with you, Mo. It was a great 15-minute conversation without Drain.
Yeah, we threw shade at a lot of folks, and none of that is recorded. So that's cool. No JP today. He's attending to some personal matters. No Lucas. I just don't think it's late enough for him. So we come into this podcast with Michigan on a rather hot streak. They have recorded another undefeated weekend. They're on a 12-game winning streak. Though, if you ask me, not a very convincing 12-game winning streak. I wasn't too enthused by one-run wins over Ball State and Pitt. How are you guys feeling after the weekend in Boca Raton? Don't rush to answer all at once here.
Kev, you can go first.
It's tough because I'm on the phone, so I can't go off of verbal cue. Or I have to go off of verbal
You couldn't
cues.
see Drain drinking his lemonade?
All right, that's fine. I'll take the first step. I'm feeling good just because I would rather have a 12-game win streak that's unconvincing compared to a 7-5 stretch, and all of a sudden the 7 wins, Michigan is winning by 7, 8, 9, 10 runs. And the reason I think this is going to be, or Boca Raton is very telling of what this season's going to be. There are going to be a lot of games that are close, that are very low scoring, that Michigan is just going to have to grind out. I can't remember what game it was, but it was the walk-off walk to, I want to say, Madison Uden.
It was against Ball State, not Strike State, Ball State.
Ah, nice, Mo. I see what you did there. But there's going to be a lot of low-scoring, close games. Michigan's going to grind it out just because they have the talent to win these ball games. It's not going to be pretty. It's not going to help the stats. But at the end of the day, it's a win. And you know what? A 12-game win streak is a 12-game win streak. And that's probably the most optimistic I'm going to be all season.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with this. I mean, the big difference is compared to some games we were seeing earlier on. I mean, we saw that Virginia Tech game back in Texas. That was a 2-0 win. The Florida State win was a 1-0. But in the Florida State game, they couldn't hit anything. In the Virginia Tech win, they couldn't hit anything. They had 3 hits in that Virginia Tech win. So even if they are close games, and yeah, maybe not against the best opponents, but they did pile up quite a few hits. In the Ball State game, Michigan had 9 hits and 30 at-bats. In the Pittsburgh game, Michigan had 11 hits and 28 at-bats. At least, they're hitting, they're getting on base, and more importantly, we're starting to see more than just 2 or 3 players in the lineup making, even decent contact.
Yeah, absolutely. Maddie Uden was the main performer this weekend for the Wolverines. Also, Haley Hoganrod had a homer and a triple in a one-run win over the Pitt Panthers. We've got interviews with both of those folks, as well as Tara Blanco and Carol Hutchins. Those will be thrown onto the end of the episode because, frankly, I couldn't be bothered to look at the format, the template for our episode, and figure out where those interviews are going to fit in. But they're really good. Trust me, I interviewed all of them, and you'll have to listen all the way through to catch those. But yeah, Maddie Uden's been playing very well, and I think that's even more important for the Wolverines because she plays a position of need in third base. I thought that Subject or even Swearingen or Bump might be the answer for this team. None of them have stepped forward, but fortunately, Uden, who we had pegged to play shortstop, she might be the answer at the 5.
Yeah, I mean, I'd agree with that, and it really starting to look like the lineup is taking shape, and that's kind of the big thing in terms of where people are going to be playing on the diamond, also where they're hitting in the batting order. We're starting to get some just semblance of the way things are shaking out. We're almost into Big Ten play, which is good. They used the non-conference to try to get a feel for the way things are, but it sort of looks like at the current moment that we're finally seeing where people are gonna get their roles. Maybe it'll be Hoganrod in that last outfield spot. That might be the only real toss-up remaining. But especially with Lou Allen now back, and only 16 at bats, but 313 through those first 16. That's a lot better than what we've seen in short samples or small sample sizes from Bump or Swearingen her entire career or Amanda Vargas. So it does seem like there are more hitters and things are more in an orderly fashion.
Yeah, and the one thing I'll say about Allen is 5 for 16, very young career, but she has 7 RBIs, so she's taking advantage of some opportunities and getting some clutch hits, which, all throughout last year and the beginning of this year, they were few and far between for the Wolverines. So to see Allen come in her freshman season and come in clutch, that's big. And I think, hopefully that kind of rubs off on the other team. But I think that when she entered the lineup, when she made her debut, I don't know if it energized the Wolverines to have another really solid freshman to get in the playing time rotation or whatever you want to call it. But it did something because she's been solid and the team has kind of been pretty solid as well since she came back from that early season injury.
So the ideal lineup for this team involves Megan Bobian in the circle, Tara Blanco first base, Aiden Falk probably in right field, Lou Allen is the designated player, probably for one of the outfielders. You got Peters, who has been struggling this season, but
she's ticked up a little bit lately.
Yeah, lately she's been shining a bit. Haley Hoganrod probably in left field. It seems like she's earned that spot at least for now, although there's still going to be healthy competition. Third base, Maddie Uden. Shortstop, Thais Gonzalez. Second base, Canfield.
I think you mean Natalia Rodriguez.
Yeah, Natalia. Who did I say? Thais Gonzalez? Wow, my bad.
Good
Natalia
one,
Rodriguez. Yeah, I don't think Thais plays much shortstop. Behind the plate, Katie Alexander. That, aside from maybe Natalia Rodriguez, that is a lineup that I think instills me with some confidence against pretty much any competition in the country, especially with Bobby in the circle.
And I agree with that, and I think in terms of offense, maybe Rodriguez is probably the low man on the totem pole there, but we've seen her make a lot of nice defensive plays. So playing shortstop, that's a position that you need some defense to cover a lot of range. We saw that from Abby Ramirez over the past 4 years. I'm fine with her in the mid-200s or low 200s hitting as long as that defense stays up. And it's not like this is unheard of. Every really solid team is going to have a weak point in their lineup and contribute in other ways. If Rodriguez, if her contributions come defensively, I'm fine with it.
It also should be noted that she has the second most walks on the team, so there is a significant gap between her batting average 233 and her on-base 327. So
also leads the team in sacrifice bunts.
Yep.
With 4. The next highest has 2, so she has twice as many sacrifice bunts as anyone else on the team. We're having some fun with stats here. I think that's going to be a theme down the road in this episode, if I'm not mistaken. I know Alex and Kev were having some fun in our group me. I didn't really engage. But yeah, a lot of fun comparisons between this year and last year. It says here on the agenda that I'm supposed to ask which team is this Michigan Wolverines softball team. Is it the 6-6 team that we saw from the first 12, or the 12-0 team from the last 12? That combines for 18-6. That's where they're at. They're probably going to win 4 games this weekend going into the home stretch. How do you guys feel about this team relative to, I guess, where you were at the beginning of the season?
Well, it should be noted that I made the agenda with the expectation that we would be going around the horn and having us weigh in on which team it is, but now it's only
well,
three
hey,
of
we're
us,
going
so.
around the horn. You're the start of the horn. It's a triangular horn.
I would say at this point, I do want to believe that this is the real team, and I do have a feeling that just given the quality of competition the rest of the season, in the regular season, that this is probably the team we're going to be seeing more of. Is that because of who they're playing, or have they made real improvements? Obviously, they did look a lot better against Baylor and Louisiana than they did in the Florida State or Florida games offensively. So I think it's probably a little in between. They're not going to win every game the rest of the entire season. I'm pretty confident in that, but I mean, not just the regular season. I'm saying, they're not going to sweep all their way through to the national championship.
Not with that attitude.
There's going to be some step backs and things, but I do think that this is probably more of the real team we're seeing.
Kev, eternal optimist that you are, how you feeling?
I'm feeling good, and one of the main reasons is the Big Ten is bad. It is bad. I mean, you look at the bottom 3 teams, Indiana, Purdue, and Penn State, and I believe Michigan at least plays Indiana. They play Penn
all
State,
3 of them.
And they play Purdue. So those are all 3 of them. I mean, those teams have combined this season for 9 wins out of
nice.
A lot more opportunities than 9. I'm not going to do the simple math in my head here. But, I mean, Penn State's 1-17. Indiana and Purdue are both 4-19. So they are just terrible. And you look at the top of the Big Ten, Minnesota's kind of fallen off. So you look at Ohio State, they're formidable. Nebraska, Northwestern are okay, but some of those teams aren't on Michigan's schedule. So I think we're going to continue to see Michigan roll, and there's not going to be a lot of 2-1 weekends, I hope, just because I think the pitching is good enough to get them through. I don't know how the offense is going to be. That's a big question mark, but the pitching is a lot better than a lot of the hitters are in the Big Ten, and that's just my opinion. And the other thing I'll say is Bobbian's ERA is already, I want to say, in the 1.3s. And you might want to check me on that. 1.36, that's what it is right now. Team ERA 1.69. Both of those numbers are going to go down as we get into Big Ten play because the play is just not as good. I mean, those numbers include some teams that Michigan gave up some runs against. The Floridas, the Florida States, Notre Dame gave us trouble. So, it's hard to lose games when you're only giving up 1 or 2 runs. But, then the internal pessimist, comes in and maybe Michigan will be losing a couple of those games. But I think Michigan will continue to roll just because I think they figured a lot of things out compared to the first 10 games of the season.
So do you want to fact check him, Drain, or should I? Because I think we both have the same stat sheet up. 1.36 is Terra Blanco's ERA. Bobian's at 1.05 right now.
It's been updated.
Am I looking at outdated stats?
It's possible.
Well, which ones are you looking at?
I'm looking at the PDF version.
Oh,
I might be looking at outdated stats.
I think you're the one that's outdated.
Oh, man.
Yeah, Mo, come on, dude.
It says as of March 12, 2018. Oh, give me a break. I felt like such a sly dog here calling out Kev for his fake stats.
I think you got to go HML or whatever the other option is, man.
Whatever. My bad. My mistake.
I had to look on my face because I was eating and I missed the opportunity to do the nice on the 1.69. But
I see. Yeah,
nice.
That's not why I was smiling. I was smiling because I could call out Kev. But yeah. Anyway, my thoughts. I think that this is as much a case of just simple regression to the mean as it is Michigan seeing a noticeable uptick in the quality of their play. I think the mean performance for this pitching staff is what we've seen. I think we have enough data to say that this is a loaded pitching staff. Even Sarah Schaefer has been very solid. I saw her throw in practice today. She was mowing down some of the Wolverines hitters. And, we didn't expect anything out of her at all going into the year. We didn't know what to expect out of Megan Beaubien, and she's one of the best pitchers in the country. And it was only a matter of time before the offense stopped scoring 2 runs a game. Given all the talent, given what we've seen out of these players, it was only a matter of time before the hard hit balls started landing, before the hits started coming together in the same innings. You can attribute that to whatever mental attributes you want, but there's a little bit of luck involved in that as well, and things went right for the Wolverines. Right now they sit at number 19 in the country. I think that the series they have against Ohio State is going to be the decider as to whether they win the Big Ten and end up hosting a regional. That's not until May 4. I can't see them facing much of a challenge up until then. Maybe Michigan State, because the Spartans always play us tough.
Well, it's going to be very similar to last year where we were going through the season and every loss in the Big Ten, and I believe Michigan only had 3.
I think 3, yeah.
But Minnesota was just so good that you were hoping they would just trip up against one of these lesser teams, and it just didn't happen, and Michigan couldn't take advantage of it because they didn't play each other. Now, Michigan has the opportunity that they're going to be able to play the other big dog in the Big Ten, and that's Ohio State. That's the last weekend of the season. So, Mo, I agree with you. I think that's going to be the deciding weekend, and it's going to be the only other opportunity throughout the entire season that Michigan will have an opportunity to beat a top 25 team, because I don't foresee any of these other Big Ten teams creeping in the top 25 just with how down the conference is this year. So that's going to be a very important weekend for multiple reasons.
Well, and I'm not totally sold that Ohio State is actually good. They did kind of get steamrolled by UCLA over the weekend. That was really their only game they've played against a really good team. They will play Oklahoma here coming up and Kentucky in late March. But outside of that, it wouldn't shock me if they have only a few losses when Michigan plays them, and I think they've been kind of overrated because they have so few losses. They could end up actually being a pretty highly ranked top 25 team by virtue of probably not tripping up a whole lot against the Big Ten schedule. So not just could that be a top 25 win, it could be a pretty high level top 25 win or wins.
All right, we have a bullet point on the agenda talking about fun splits from last year.
Oh, yeah.
Kev, do you have any of those on hand that
it was in the group me. I can pull them up
to compare?
I was just it was a little slow day at the office on, I believe it was Wednesday, and I was just going through because we're probably a little before the halfway point of the season, and I was looking at the lines of Beaubien and Betza from this season and last season through 24 games, so about the same amount of innings, and it was just fascinating to me. And I'll pose the question to you guys. 2 players, player 1, through 24 games, 1.69 ERA, 91 innings pitched, 159 batting average against. Player 2, 136 ERA, 86 innings pitched, 128 batting average against.
Boy, that 136 ERA figure seems pretty familiar to me. I wonder to whom it belongs.
I know, I ruined the surprise, but the player 1's Betza from last year, player 2's Beaubien from this year, and that really just surprised me because Betza, we know she was dominant. She was dominant for 4 years, but to compare that to what Beaubien is doing this year, it's crazy to me. The only real stat that Betza has a significant lead in at this point of the season, last year compared to this year, is strikeouts, and we just know that was Betza's thing. So Beaubien not getting as many strikeouts, but really attacking hitters, keeping that batting average against really low, and just taking your freshman season head on. That was just a fun split from last year, as the title said.
And I will add that while Megan Beaubien is not going to come anywhere near the strikeout totals that Megan Betza had, She does have a far better strikeout to walk ratio. That's something that Betsa struggled with pretty much her entire career, and it doesn't seem like Beaubien has any issues with that. You look at other stats compared with the rest of the pitchers. She's thrown almost twice as many pitches, twice as many innings as anybody else on the team. She still hasn't given up as many extra base hits as Tara Blanco. She's still, like, her counting stats are commensurate with the other pitchers on this team who are good, and she's thrown like half the innings for the team. It is absurd from any measure.
Yeah, and you know what? You mentioned Blanco, and that kind of brings me into my next point. And what we've seen from Tara this year is the ERA is a lot lower. The batting average against is very similar, and she's a lot more effective, I believe, than she was last year. Both sides of the plate, pitching when she's in the circle and in the lineup. And I think that just has to do with the emergence of Sarah Schaefer being able to take some of the load off of Tara Blanco as the number 2 pitcher and allow Blanco to just focus a little bit more on batting. Yes, you have to focus on pitching still because she is pitching, I would say she is still the number 2 behind Beaubien, but the batting average is up, the on-base percentage is up, and she just looks more comfortable in the lineup this year than she did last year when she was in the 210, 215 range at this point. So I think that's another key factor that has given me a little more confidence and optimism this year compared to last year.
I'll give you a comparison, guys. I think Tara Blanco's career arc seems to be shaping up pretty similar to that of Kelly Christner. A sophomore year where she establishes herself as one of the best hitters in the country, poised to lead the team the next year. Next year comes, she takes a bit of a step back. Then it's her time to be a senior leader, to take over the team, to take on a leadership role. And not only does she embrace it, she exceeds all of our wildest expectations. Blanco has been very impressive this year.
She's also key as one of the Wolverines' biggest power hitters, because even while the batting average has ticked up, they still, aren't quite the, just mashing team in terms of home runs.
Yeah, that 2016 team had 4 hitters over 400,
and it's a tough comparison to compare to. And there has been a lot more power on this team than even there was last season, and we're starting to see, from other places like a Haley Hoganrod, and Skvarce has a home run. But still, Blanco has 3 home runs. That's number 3 on the team, right behind Canfield and Falk. So she is valuable offensively in more ways than one.
Looking at this 2016, I got to reminisce a little bit. This 2016 stat page is incredible. 8 hitters over 300, 3 over 400, Ramirez at 380, so that's pretty close to 400. And then the home run totals, because Mo, I think you and I remember probably the best out of Drain. I don't know, if how into the team you were, but the team just nailed home runs. It seemed like 2 or 3 a game. It was crazy. Ramiro had 19, and Blanco and Lawrence, and even Susala. Those. I don't know if. I think what we did was probably set our standards a little too high. And what a lineup can look like, because that might be one of the top 5, top 10 lineups in Michigan history.
Yeah, the previous year was even better as far as home runs were concerned. Maybe not the average juggernauts top to bottom, but that was the year where Christner and Romero both eclipsed 20 home runs. Susala and Lawrence had a measly 14. Blanco had 12. Yeah, we have been very spoiled by these Michigan teams past, but we might have never seen, I'll stop talking because Betsa Wagner was a very solid rotation, but this rotation at least rivals that.
Beaubien's just so dominant.
I'm not going to go as far as saying this rotation is better than Betsa and Wagner just because of what that team did and how Wagner was able to shut the door and get Michigan to a Game 3 in that championship series. And I just think Wagner's veteran leadership compared to Betsa as a sophomore and just slinging the ball around, I think that was very dynamic. And I don't think we've seen enough of this rotation yet. But what this rotation has that I think is super intriguing is next year it's going to be 2 sophomores.
Yeah.
And the potential of what those 2 players can do over the next 3.5 seasons, that's what gets me excited. And who knows, in 3 years we might be saying that is the best rotation. But I don't know. There's still a lot of good teams. I mean, the 2014 or 16 team? Is that what we were?
Yeah,
or no,
that was the first reference. 2015 made the championship. 2016 had some tough losses to Oklahoma and Florida State.
I mean, the 2015 rotation was then very good. I mean, we're not even talking about 2005, which was incredible as well, obviously winning the championship. So, I mean, I think we might be getting a little ahead of ourselves if we start thinking that this is the best rotation of all time. There's
Probably.
the inner pessimist in me.
Probably. We'll go like Kevin, take it 1 week, 1 game at a time. Look ahead to Oxford, Ohio, where we will be covering the team.
Wait.
Whoa.
We got one more sample size. Yes.
Okay, what's going on?
This is why I put enough time and research into this that I have to put it up.
Feel free.
Okay, so the first 12
God,
games...
the nerve. He shows up late and thinks he can swing his stats around here.
The first 12 games, the team batting average was .225. The last 12 games, the team batting average has been .349. And, you can make of that what you want, but I think it demonstrates just how brutal those first 12 games were, but also that we have seen really significant improvement, and so that's something to keep in mind as we go forward.
Geez, I would love to see an entire box score of the last 12 games. Why didn't you compile that, Alex?
They do have one on Michigan softball, or you can look at
also
all of them.
In terms of the rotation debate, we didn't even get to 2010 and that mini era with Jordan Taylor and Nicky Nimitz. So I mean, I mean we're only looking at the last 10 years, and already there's probably 3 or 4 really solid rotations that really are probably on top of what the team has this year. But still, very exciting.
You're not wrong. The stats.
I just want to give the due diligence, to these other rotations and whatnot before we start making these crazy hot takes and get ourselves in trouble.
It's appropriate. The only area where this rotation does compare to those past rotations is the numbers, is in the ace. We don't have the rest of their careers to go off of and assign legendary status. We don't even know how this season's going to turn out. But anyway, now that we've got drained stats out of the way,
I will say,
never mind.
One last thought on this topic is that having 2 freshmen like Schaefer and Bobian, also it helps in that future to try and build sort of what Florida has, right? Where they have just this wealth and extreme depth of pitching, of just, to throw out a horse here and a horse there. That right there is a nice building block. Next year you add another pitcher to, continue to mix in more and more players. It gives them a good foundation going forward.
Absolutely. Hutch is still going to be recruiting players for years to come, probably pitchers too. So yeah, the future should be pretty bright for this team. So, getting on to the more immediate future, which I've been trying to do for the last 5 or 10 minutes, because this episode's going to run a little bit lengthy with the interviews tacked on to the end that you were required to listen to. Michigan's going to Oxford this weekend. Lucas and I will be covering the games. I'm looking forward to getting back on the mic. So yeah, please listen to our YouTube broadcasts. But anyway, they're playing Dayton, Miami, Ohio, Robert Morris, Fort Wayne, and these teams are all bad. So Michigan's going 4-0. What are you guys looking for out of the weekend?
This Dayton game might be really ugly. It should be really ugly. Dayton has a team that's 209. I mean, we just touched on how
they've scored 1 run in their last 6 games.
I mean, it should really be a bloodbath, and maybe I could probably phrase that a little better. But I mean, if this isn't a 4-0 weekend, I don't know what is.
They only lost.
But then again. It could be a 2-2 weekend, and all of a sudden next week we're back,
off
very
the bowl.
Pessimist. Yeah, just not happy and whatnot.
Ride the bear.
I mean, Dayton is the first game of the tournament for Michigan, so it's got to be Bobian. she might have a little fun that day.
Dayton's kind of a puzzling team because they were 29 and 27 last year, and they bring back a number of offensive players who weren't terrible last year, and all of a sudden they are. They sort of had a sinking tide lowers all boats in that they lost the 2017 Atlantic 10 Player of the Year in Gabrielle Snyder. Obviously, that's going to make a difference. You wouldn't expect it to make the kind of difference that it has made for Dayton. They're 4-12 this year. Mostly below the Mendoza line in their starting lineup.
I was going to say they have 5 main starters in their lineup that are batting under 190. So if Obian gives up more than one run, I will count this as a loss.
I'm not surprised.
They have 2 team home runs. They've only scored 37 runs all season in 16 games. If there's more than one run scored, I'm not going to be happy. It's going to be a 3-1 weekend.
That's only fair. Miami, Ohio, better than Florida because they've beaten Maryland twice this year. So that'd be a huge win for the Wolverines. But they're 8-9. Their rotation has been kind of a one-pitcher deal, and Courtney Vierstra, who was a third-team All-American in high school or something like that. Anyway, she's given up a bunch of unearned runs. Hopefully the Michigan Wolverines can get to her. Miami should be a walkover. I'm not even going to bother talking about Robert Morris or Fort. Does anybody have anything to say about Robert Morris or Fort Wayne?
The Fort Wayne are the Mastodons, which I think is a pretty cool team.
It's like a dinosaur, right? Or no, it's like a woolly mammoth.
Yes.
This is an educational podcast too. Like, we shouldn't be listed under sports on iTunes. We should be listed under education.
I'll try to change the classification. Anyway, Robert Morris is half of a good name in my opinion.
I mean, this is probably the worst 4-game stretch of teams Michigan might play the entire season. Maybe you can count like the 3 games they'll play Penn State or whoever, but this is pretty ugly, and I'm looking for 2, 3, 4 run rules, as many as possible.
That would be 4, Drain. I was a stats minor.
Really?
So pretty good with the numbers.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I want to see a home run out of Taylor Bump. I want to see a home run out of Alex Subject, and I want to see everybody else also hit a bunch of home runs, and also only shutouts.
This would be the weekend, if it was last year, where I would call for, all right, this is the weekend, Abby Ramirez, she's hitting 2 home runs. But obviously on the team, or she's not on the team anymore, so I think I have to go to a different slap hitter.
Natalia Rodriguez?
Nope. I'm calling for 2 home runs from Natalie Peters. There you go.
So it is. So it has been said. So it shall be.
Is Leah Crockett still living? Like, is she a thing?
I don't know.
This would be the weekend if there was ever one to like give her a couple innings.
I don't know if she dresses.
Well, I mean, I'm sure she's not just showing up naked.
Okay, we're taking that very literally, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's a bad joke.
Honestly, it would be. It's a good weekend for Hutch to probably put some pieces into the lineup that you normally don't see. As
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I'm looking at the 2018 roster, and Crockett's not listed on it.
Oh.
So, All right.
That is quite the mystery.
Yeah. Oh well. Is that it?
Wow,
There's a moment of silence for Leah Crockett.
we're really at a loss of words about this.
All right, I'm gonna call it for this episode of East of the Rockies, episode 5, as I've been told. For Alex Drain, Kevin Klein, this is Morris Fabry. Thanks for listening. Be sure to listen to our.
Thing.
Yep.
4-0 this weekend. # Team Vargas. That's all I gotta say.
Fair. All right. That's all we got. Listen to the interviews. They're coming up after I stop talking. Listen to our broadcasts this weekend. And we will leave you with, as always, a good night and a go blue. Put this here.
All right.
All right. I'll start. So, obviously, you've had to tinker with the lineup a bit this year and last year. Do you think there's any value in lineup continuity if it comes at the expense of, say, putting out the optimal lineup?
Well, I'm looking. I'd like to have a solidified lineup. I think we're moving in that direction. But the bottom line is we got to see who's going to get it done. And until people get it done, it's not solidified. But I like the lineup we've had. I hope we can stay consistent with it.
All right. Where do you see room for improvement on the team heading into this weekend?
Well, I'd like to just see us swing a little freer, I think we fuddle ourselves a little bit. And, we had a great practice. They swung well. They swung well out on the field. And I need to see Tara and Schaefer continue to give us more quality innings. And those two areas, if today was a sign, then we're moving in a good direction. But I've kept track of some of the important stats to me, which are, of course, on quality of at-bats, on base percentage, slugging, and we're not outstanding in any of those areas, but we continue to climb. We're climbing at not a real steep trajectory, but we're moving in the right direction.
Can you think of any players in particular who have shined in those areas that might not necessarily show up on the stat sheet?
Well, again, we're not talking about just batting average stats, but if you look at, really, I think you look what Haley Hogenrod's done, and she's really climbed, and what Maddie Uden have done. They've been climbing, and they've been pretty consistent. They have moments, like everybody has moments, but I've been particularly pleased with those two. Offensively.
Could you also talk about maybe more on Haley, like hitting her first home run, maybe like if you know how she felt or how, I guess, you
Oh, you'll have to ask her how she felt. She looked pretty excited to me. I think she was excited, and she's she's a kid who works really hard and has refused to accept that I'm not going to be a hitter. She was in the 10 hole for us the majority of last year. So I'm really excited for her and like to see her keep moving in that direction, just keep the same approach, which is hungry to get better, hungry to get opportunity, and not change her approach. Good for me?
Can I
Sure.
talk to you individually?
Okay.
Like
Wait.
just over there.
Okay, I actually have a couple more questions. But this was on, I think so you tweet out a photo of you and I think it's, how do you pronounce it?
Eiley.
Eiley.
Could you maybe just talk more about your visit with her and I guess?
Eiley's father reached out to me in December, and they were fans, season ticket holders, who I had no connection with at all. But he told me her story and asked if I would consider making a trip to the hospital to see her. She was dying. And I went up to see her in December, and honestly, she was just, I thought, wow, she's doing great. She's going to make it. She was so just with it. And she was in the middle of chemo treatments. And so I told her when she got better, she could come visit us in January. And we were getting ready for that, and her father got a hold of me and told me that had really gone south, and she couldn't come visit. She was that bad. So I asked if I could come see her, and he didn't really think so. He just said, no, she's doing poorly. So I said, well, we have a jersey for her. We'd gotten a yellow jersey, and I had Eiley put on it. And so I said, I want to mail it up to you. And then he got a hold of me and said, we're going to let you come visit her. So I went to visit her. I was able to give her jersey, and it was the last time she ever sat up, come to find out. And then she passed away on January 20th. And her jersey was at her memorial. I went up to her memorial. And this weekend, her parents had bought tickets to Tampa. They were going to take her to Tampa to see us. Well, she didn't make it to Tampa, so they were down this weekend. They were at our games. So that was what the Twitter was about, was I just thought that was a little shout out to Eiley.
Well, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for asking. So, Tara, you've done it all pretty much this year. You got wins in the circle, you got walk-offs, got home runs. What's been your favorite moment so far this season?
Favorite moment was probably during spring break. We started off a little rough, and then we came back and finished the weekend after losing to Virginia Tech in a really heartbreaking way, really. just coming back, coming strong from that, and then going out and beating 2 top 25 opponents against Baylor and Louisiana. I think that was our team's turning point, and I think that really resonated with me as well.
Yeah, that was my favorite moment too. So you hit home runs, but what's your favorite term for home run? There's dinger, long ball, homer.
I mean, Jarrett calls mine Blanco Blast, and I love that. Like, that's amazing. So that's my favorite.
We can roll with that. So you are pretty solid in the circle defensively. Do you think that your experience at first base plays into that at all, or is it just the work that you put in practicing pitching?
No, I think it definitely helps that I play a position too, and I played a position like my whole life, so I think that helps just reacting to the ball from the circle.
Makes sense. Last year you got hit by 15 pitches, which led the team by far. Is that just luck, or were you gaming a little bit?
Maybe it's the people not wanting to pitch to me or just expanding their zone. But I think I've only gotten hit once this year, so I'm in pretty good shape.
Yeah, made the adjustment. So you're in a rotation with a couple other freshmen. Have you had much to teach them, do you feel?
Yeah, just basically teaching them to just like go right after it and like not to be afraid of anything, just to have fun with it. And I think they're both doing a really good job at that. And we just have a really good communication throughout our staff.
Have you made any like effort to be a mentor to them?
Oh yeah, definitely.
All right, and finally, as a senior, now's the time to reflect on all your Michigan experiences. What are some of your favorite classes you've taken?
Classes? I've taken one of my favorites is the criminology course here at Michigan, and I was really into that. And then all the psych class. I'm in a psych law class right now, and that's really interesting as well.
Yeah, sounds intriguing. All right, that's all I got for you.
All right.
I don't have any questions.
I think we're really just coming together. We've gotten a lot of hits in all of our games.
All right.
And I think that's more just trying to be a base. That's our term of reference. Just
you've been a big part of the team's
recent
recent surge on the offensive end.
Just really
Did anything change for you or the team to spark this run, do you think?
Can you talk about how maybe
I think just really like focusing on attacking more. I think just being more aggressive in the box and being able to see good pitches and really like tracking the ball in and swinging hard. And I think that's one of the biggest things.
Do you and your sister Taylor keep tabs on each other's play during the season?
Absolutely. We text each other almost after every game. It's a constant communication between us. We're like best friends, so there's never no communication.
All right. Do you ever do some scouting on Big Ten foes for each other?
Actually, we haven't, but I might take you up on that. That's a good idea.
All right. So there's been a few people playing on the left side of the infield this season. Is it ever challenging to develop a defensive rhythm when you don't exactly know where you're going to be lined up or who's going to be lined up next to you?
Right. I mean, I wouldn't consider it a challenge. I would think more just doing what it takes, like just realizing you need to do what it takes wherever they put you. And I think that it's all the same because the relationships that I have with all my teammates are awesome. And so I think it's pretty easy for me to transition between both of those positions on the left side.
Seems ideal.
Yeah.
To have that relationship with everyone. So what are some specific things you worked on in the off season to try to add to your game?
I think some things I just worked on. Being light on my feet was a big thing. Just learning how to be quicker, like with my feet and with my glove at the same time. And then offensively, just I think putting in more swings just helps me become a better hitter.
Makes sense. So you've faced a lot of high-level competition this year. Who's the toughest pitcher that you've faced, would you say?
Toughest pitcher?
I mean, Florida or...
Oh, definitely honestly. Kelly. Oh, Alicia Ocasio.
Yeah.
She's been the toughest pitcher, I think, definitely against Florida.
Tougher than Barnhill?
I squared one up against Barnhill. I'm not sure. Alicia, not so much.
Are they tougher than hitting Megan in practice?
No. Megan's tough to hit.
She'll be glad to hear when she listens to our podcast.
Exactly.
Finally, did you make a bracket this year?
Nope, but I'm in the process.
All right, solid. How far do you think you'll have Michigan going?
Oh man, I'm gonna put them semifinals just because I'm a big, huge fan. So.
Yeah, gotta have some loyalty.
That's right.
Loyalty.
That's
all
right.
That's all I got for
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Can you talk about maybe like the factors leading up
All
to it?
right,
I know
so,
like both of you guys have.
You lettered
like,
4
above,
times
like,
in
500,
basketball
like,
in high school, as well as a bunch
so,
of
like,
running
maybe just
stuff.
factors or
Do you ever get to play basketball much now that you're on the softball team?
I still go and like shoot around and stuff, and like I play with my mom a lot and stuff over the summer, and I have some friends that I hang out with, and we all play basketball. Just like pick up stuff. Yeah, I get to do that a lot. And obviously, you can go out and run and just like enjoy campus, basically, you know. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's more of a like relaxing thing for me now to play, you know, because it's a very
absolutely. I'm so excited. It's awesome playing on alumni.
It's outside of softball. It's like an outside, you know.
Well, that's it for me.
It's like an outlet.
Thanks so much.
Yeah.
For sure. Nice to have that. Was there ever any thought to playing collegiately? Any chance?
Yeah. There was a lot of thought to play collegiately, basically all the sports that I played. I'd kind of done some investigating and stuff because I committed so young later in my high school career and stuff. And I think just the fact that this is Michigan and it's my dream school. I'm from Michigan, so I think I've always been a Michigan fan, and this is just where I was meant to be, you know.
Fair. A familiar question for you. You might have just heard it. Did you make a bracket this year?
Yeah, I have not yet. But obviously I'm going to have Michigan going pretty far.
Glad to hear it.
Yeah.
So, last weekend, pretty good weekend for you. You hit your first career home run in triple.
Yep.
Both against Pitt. Have you ever hit for the cycle in your career?
I think I did one time in high school. I think it was my either freshman or sophomore year, which is kind of weird because it wasn't my junior, senior. It was earlier in my career. But it was against a very good team. So.
That's fair. Well, Pitt's pretty good.
Yeah. Yep.
Do you feel like that's a sign of things to come for you?
I really think it is opening the door for me to see what my success is like and what it takes for me to be successful. So yeah, I really think it is.
Cool. Did you expect to be as regular of a feature in the lineup as you have been this season?
I don't know if it was something I was expected. I knew it was something I had to earn. You know, I knew it was something that we have a lot of other girls that are very what is the word? That are very skilled and very are very suited, are well suited to play the position as well. You know, they're very very consistent and they're very good. So I think I just definitely knew it was something I was gonna have to fight for, you know. And obviously, it's still the fight isn't over yet, you know. And I don't see it as a fight either necessarily. It's something that's like we can always make each other better, you know.
Yeah, iron sharpens iron sort of deal.
Yes.
What aspects of your game right now would you say you take the most pride in?
My defense. I think my defense is something that is really a strong point, and it's something that is very consistent and comes every single day, you know.
Got you on the field a couple times last year too.
Yeah.
And finally, another familiar question: who's the toughest pitcher you faced this season, and was she tougher than facing Megan in practice?
I think the toughest pitcher we faced was I think it was the Baylor pitcher.
Yeah.
I think it was the Baylor pitcher. She was through a lot of up, and that's like that's what I struggle with a lot, and that's what Megan throws a lot too. And I definitely think that Megan is a better pitcher than I can offer in practice. I definitely think she's better.
Do you chase it up and out, or do you just struggle making contact?
Some of both. Yeah.
I did too.
Yeah.
All right, that's all I got for you. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're listening to East of the Rockies, the Michigan Student Softball Podcast on WCBN Sports.
Well, Mr. Burns had done it, the power plant had won it, with Roger Clemens clucking all the while. Mike Scioscia's tragic illness made us smile, while Wade Boggs lay unconscious on the barroom tile. We're talking softball, from Maine to San Diego, talking softball. Mattingly and Canseco, Ken Griffey's grotesquely swollen jaw, Steve Sachs and his running with the law. We're talking Homer, Ozzie and the Straw.